Because what has happened already, Binance is actually a monopoly.
Hey guys, my name's Chun Weng and you're tuning into the Crypto Kopitiam, Malaysia's top crypto podcast. Usually what happens is that I talk to the camera and the camera doesn't talk back. But today I've got a few friends, including, as per usual, KC, and one friend today who is taking the Malaysian crypto business world by storm. Harpreet is not your average Joe, far from it. He's so many things that I'm not sure how 24 hours a day is enough for a guy like him, because not only is he the founder and CEO of Blocklime, a crypto development company, the Chief Technology Officer of Verifier, and also the current President of Access, a Malaysian blockchain association. So, Harpreet, welcome to the Crypto Kopitiam.
Hi everybody. Thank you for actually having me here today. It's a pleasure.
How are you doing, Harpreet?
I'm doing great. Thank you for actually, setting this up. Yeah, it is definitely a very busy time in the blockchain and the crypto world. Everybody is super excited with all the new development happening in the NFT space, happening in the crypto space, happening in a DeFi space, and also the regulated industries. Because at the moment, even governments are catching up. They're also building up their own tools and application. So I think it's busy hour for everybody in the space.
By the way of tradition, the first thing that we usually ask our guests is, how do you stumble upon crypto? So is it okay if we share a little bit about that?
So my story with crypto and blockchain actually started pretty in a young age. I was quite excited about computers. I always wanted to, have one. I didn't have a computer when I was growing up, in the early age especially. So I wanted, have my own personal computer. Like my sister had one. I was like, okay, I want something of my own. So one of the interesting stories is that I actually built my first computer from scraps. Right. So actually had a neighbor who was really into, he actually had a business of scrap metal and also scrapping computer parts and all of those. And I actually really got interested on how computers work. And he used to teach me a lot of it, like how RAM works. And this was like quite early on. I think it was like 11 years old, 12 years old kind of age. I used to hang out with that guy. He was like about 25, 30, everything between 25, 30 years old. I don't remember his age. Yeah, so generally.
How old were you when you were hanging out with this 25, 30-year-old dude?
Yeah, I was like just about 11, 12 years old. I used to be his neighbor kid. I had always had this, my mindset kind of grew quite early on. I used to think like a matured guy when I was like in my 10, 11, 12 years old, where all my kids used to run, all the kids around my age used to run around. I used to like hang out, sit down and, chill with all those elder guys, all the teenagers. I used to be hanging out with those guys. And I started talking politics when I was, I think, about 12, 13 years old with all the uncles. So that's why it kind of shaped me to this, right? So the political talks and, the world geopolitical talk started when I was 12 years old. So in a way, they sucked out the childhoodness out of me when I was quite young. But I don't blame them, because that kind of benefited me later on. But so that's what happened. So I was really into computers and got to know this guy, and then he started to teach me all about it. I bought a computer from his scrap metal parts and built my own one. Back then it was not very common to buy and assemble your own PCs. These days we can go and assemble a rig. So back in that day we used to buy like a whole set, like you buy a whole HP set or a whole Dell set, right? So I was like quite excited that I had a computer which had like Dell parts, HP parts, and everything mixed up together, and assembled my own like a supercomputer back then. For that time, it was really good. And I actually used like some of those money that I saved up from some of my some of my activities back then. Usually they give all this money to all those there has like some government support money or everything I used to get back then. Yeah, so that's how I got it in. So from there, I got the passion of learning more about computers. I got connected to the World Wide Web. And since then, I got like totally nerdy. Before that, I used to find other activities. But when I just got connected to the internet, thing, with the jarring sound, after I heard the jarring sound, I never looked back. So the internet was my kind of a big change in my life, in my lifestyle. So that's where I learned about how to build videos and visual effects.
What were your like first few websites though? Like my first few websites were like, I think like what, disneychannel.com or something like that. Yeah.
My first, after Google, my first website was, I remember I went up and downloaded some games. I was trying to play some web-based games and all of those. That was like my first thing. You want to play games first, man.
Yeah, like Cartoon Network, Disney Channel, that stuff.
Yeah. I honestly, I didn't been to Cartoon Network and Disney Channel much, but I remember playing some back then. Disney had these web-based games that I have played. Yeah, that I have been on those. But I will say that my life went 360 when I discovered YouTube. I'll say when I discovered YouTube, that's where like a lot of those changes happened. I started to learn all those, like how to do many of those things. Like first of all, how to use those computer, then like more about computer and IT. I don't know. I just found that passion. Nobody from my family actually is in computer except me, right? So my sisters and everybody, they like one is a nurse, one is a lawyer, right? From a legal background, and one is like now she's in HR, right? So in many different kind of experience and backgrounds, and nobody in my cousins or relations who are also a nerd computer guy. I just built up that passion looking at them that I want to be in this field. This is what I want to be doing, right? So I kind of figured that out when I was quite young, like about 10, 11 years old. I kind of hit that really, like this is where I got to be. So that's where I found that passion, started building those computers, figuring out how a computer works, then started writing some codes, like started discovering how to code when I was like
14,
10,
right?
11, 12. I started doing some stuff early on. 14 is where I can claim myself to be a coder. Before that, I was like just doing some, like basic scripts, trying to write some bad websites.
What's the barrier between like, just like playing around with code and then like actually being able to claim yourself as to be a coder and things like that? Actually,
I have a thing since young. I like to build stuff. I like to see the things in action. Like when I build that website, then it works and I find it super cool and I was like super excited. Oh, I built something, right? So I used to do that. So, like I always wanted to even look into building video games. I actually even did some of them, but none of them, a lot of them are public. I think this is the first time I'm sharing it. I even played around with Steam Engine when I was in university, thinking of even building my own game. Maybe I will, definitely will someday. So there might be like Blocklime games in Berhad coming up in another 5-6 years time once we succeed with this, right? Yeah. So that like that might be even might be one of the possible futures. So 14 years old is where I got started into like all this working stuff and like all this website development, and that's where I started to explore how else can I make money, right? I knew it that like from pretty early on that I would like to be self-sufficient, like in this case, I was a bit more independent, and I don't like to ask money from my parents since young. I had this issue. That's why like even my first computer, I wanted to buy it on my own, right? Even my first like things I wanted to buy on my own. And in this case, I always wanted to be kind of sufficient with the money because I don't come from a very wealthy family. We all came from a very rural middle class family, and we grew out of it eventually. So that's where I came from. So I saw that situation, and I felt, okay, maybe I need to do something with my life to get out of this, right? So that kind of a mindset sit down very early on in my life that this is something I need to get done, right? So then that happened. Start getting approached by friends to build their websites, to build them, like company profile
what
videos.
What kind of websites were you building at the beginning, though?
Company websites. People.
Company website. Yeah. Like so how old were you back then? Like 14, is it?
14, 15. Started building like company videos, company websites. Like started to do some event work. Like one of my good friend, like was doing stuff in event company. He was like about 18 years old when he started doing that work, and he started to outsource some work to me. And I also was really into photography. I really like the idea of how camera works. Like since I told you, I also like to do visual effect stuff. So I wanted to know how camera works, how videography works, how photography works. So I got really excited about it. So I used to do some outsourcing work for him for his event company. And then I started to do I started to follow him around as a second photographer. And I was just about 15, I think, around that age. And then some of the uncles saw me in that, like that weddings, becoming a second photographer. Like, this guy is a kid, he should be in school, right? Like, what is he doing here? Like, he basically scolded that guy. It's like, you're spoiling his future, tell him to go back to school, right? Don't make him come to all these parties, late night, all everything. I'm like, okay, I understand.
But you still did it anyway, though, I think.
I switched the role. So I went, I actually from being that photographer in that weddings, he started to pay me to just do editing. So I do it from home, don't follow him around. So I started to spend more time in editing, first started with photo editing, then went into video editing. Then from that video editing, I started learning about VFX, right? And I was already building some websites. Then I started building even more cooler websites. And then companies started to hire me to come up and build like the company profile videos. I started to build like a few of these companies. When they go up and hire somebody to do that, they charge 30,000, 40,000. They can pay me a few $1,000 and I will do a company profile video for them. Super cheap, cheaper than even like outsourcing to India and Vietnam.
Right. This is like literal child labor, actually.
In a way, it is though. It is. Yeah, but a lot of them don't know that I was actually a kid. You know, like when I was 15 years old, 16 years old, I started to have quit a lot of beard already. So people used to think I'm in the 18, 19 years old kind of a kid. So one of these days, I went to this company. It was called Module System. And, you know, like I was actually showing them, one of my friend was actually working in the company. And his boss was like quite shocked. He's like, wait, this is a 15 years old guy. I remember it was about 16 when this next project came. I did a few times for them. I did first project for them when I was younger, and then I did another project when I think about to finish as PM. Yeah, so I did another project for them, and the next time they was like, hey, this guy is like still quite young guy, and maybe he even gave me an offer. He said like, if you're like once you're finished with the studies, you can come and join us. And that kind of like I kept that in mind, and I went back to like doing whatever I was doing, and then right after I finished my foundation in Unitech, I decided to go and join them back in because I already knew there was already a work offer waiting for me for a few years, and I know that guy was quite cool, so I felt that would be a good place for me to get started in the work culture. And I had a huge gap between my foundation to my degree. There was like a 6 months gap. I'm like, what am I going to do in this 6 months? Like all my friends were like, okay, you're going to go back, go back to their hometown, go holiday. I was like, damn, 6 months is boring, man. I got to do something. So that 6 months, I decided to go up there and take an IT exec job. And basically I went in for in consideration that I'll do something for 6 months as an IT exec, then I'll come back maybe after I finish my degree and become a software engineer. So that was my mindset back then. So I went in as an IT exec, and when I was about to leave after the 6 months, they was quite happy and quite impressed, and they found me trustworthy. They were like, okay, you come whenever you want, you work like 3 hours, and basically we'll still pay you. And they increased my hourly rate. So they gave me by hour rate. So in this case, throughout my degree, I was actually working there. So I became doing from IT work, started to do some software work, started to do some project management work, started to do some R&D work. By the time I did industrial training, I already had like 3 years plus of experience. So when the time I exited as a fresh graduate, I was actually more experienced than any fresh graduate. Like basically, I had like working since 19 years old. I'm working like officially. Before that, since 14 years old, I'm building website and doing development. So I was like a 30 plus years old in comparison to any fresh graduate in terms of experience. Yeah. Because I did quite a lot of those early on.
But and that's where if you look at most of the fresh graduates nowadays, right? I think the biggest problem that fresh graduates have nowadays is that they have no pre-existing experiences.
Yeah, honestly, that wasn't on my mind that I want to get an experience from my college or what. I just find it fun, right? I had a way of making money. I can, put that money into buying game items, buying stuff on Dota, right, which was cool, right? So in that case, like all of them kind of like interlink into each other. And that's why I start wasting money on Dota. I was like, okay, I need to save this money. The mindset came. Then towards 19 years old, it's where one of my friends came up and was proposing me one of the scam coins called U token, right? Mm-hmm. So this has been a very long pre-intro to this discussion. Now I'm coming to the part of the crypto, right? Right. This is like watching Star Wars 4, 5, 6. Now you're watching 1, 2, 3, right? Yeah. So this is episode 4 now, where actually the crypto thing starts, right? So in this case, so one of my friends was basically sharing me about U token, and I was really convinced. And he was like, "Hey, bro, you gotta buy this. This is like this U token." He was involved in this MLM stuff for the coin, I think. And then he was like really pushing me. It's better than Bitcoin. And I'm like, what the hell is Bitcoin, right? He was like really convincing me that Bitcoin is useless. U token is like the best. I was like, I'm not going to buy this. I decided to go back and did some research, understand what is Bitcoin. And I was like, this is interesting. right? Then I was like, okay. Then next day, one of those days, my friend asked, hey, bro, you ready to buy? I'm like, no, bro, I bought Bitcoin. And he was like, what? His whole pitch was not to buy Bitcoin and buy U token. And he actually introduced me to Bitcoin, and I decided to buy Bitcoin back then. So I did exactly opposite of whatever he told not to do. And it turned out to be one of my best decisions.
So what happened to U token?
U token died 2 years later, right? The founders got arrested in Thailand, I believe. It was like an MLM kind of a project, and it was a scam, and the whole company died off. It was like one coin before U token was the one coin before one coin.
What about your friend though? Like how's he? How are you guys still friends? Probably not, right?
We're still friends. We still do talk, and he's like this guy was like the smart guy out of it. He actually invested money and got burned, and then he decided not to look into crypto for a few years, and then crypto boomed, and he was like, "Shit, I played everything wrong." Like all your moves was like to be the rich guy was all wrong, lah. And all your advice was like all misfired, lah. So that's the point right now. But we're still friends. We still talk, yeah. So that was interesting session that happened then. So that's why I was like really curious into it, but I wasn't into blockchain yet. I was just figured out crypto, figured out Bitcoin, bought some, and from shady people on the website. Back then there was no proper exchange up there as well. I was like super worried, like what happened if somebody like don't pay me or don't actually send the actual Bitcoin, right? So all of this back then there was like no proper structure, no proper information. A lot of it was on P2P, and back then it was BitX, which is Luno these days. Right, that website wasn't really, it just came, I believe, back then. It just started. There was like no proper way of buying Bitcoin back then. So I started to do some mining early on. Still can mine on computers yet back then. Wasn't a big issue. Still not very profitable. Okay lah. Like you just leave your computer there making some money, still better than making nothing. So that was the idea I was behind. But then when I went into degree and I was doing my master's, that's where I really saw the value of the technology. So I was doing this subject called multi-agent systems. I took this up for my master's in software engineering because I already had a lot of experience. A lot of people usually do software engineering degree and then they go find work and they come and do masters. I'm like, I already get through quite a lot of years already. I think I can just go and do masters now. So I exited my degree. The day I finished my course, I went and registered for going into doing masters, right? So in this case, I immediately started. Everybody like was taking holiday. I immediately started doing my master's first 2 semesters, and I actually took up like some of these interesting topics that was never heard of. I decided to go and choose all the topics I never hear before. If here already, I don't want to look. So I took this one called multi-agent systems. So it's a subset of AI. So this is where you can have like so many different small AIs talking to each other. So imagine on all of your phones, we have something like Siri, we have Cortana, right? So they are like sense of agents, right? We have agents on like all the AWS. We have agents on Amazon, on Lazada, and everything. They have like small AI agents who predict how's your buying pattern, who predicts what are the things you like to buy, and what you might be finding for next. And they are like kind of like independent, customized towards you, and they capture all your cookie data and everything and customize towards you. So an agent is able to coordinate, collaborate, and communicate with all the other agents as well. So that's what makes it special. It's an AI who can coordinate with the other AI, who can communicate with the other AI, and can collaborate so they can share information and do decision making, right? So there was like my mind just like boom, like blown out. Like I was like, shit, man, this is cool. This is super cool, right? Then I started to look into what are different types of AIs. And then I started to look into what are the problems with this. Why is this thing not here yet? Why everybody is talking about machine learning and all of those, but nobody talking about agents. Agents is super cool, right? I would want my phone to do orders for me, right? I would want it to book all those hotels whenever I want to travel, right? I want to delegate to my computer to manage my stuff, right? Why is it not there yet? So that's what really got me curious into this space. And I noticed there was one fundamental issue that I had with it: trust. I couldn't trust agents. It's just like if you one of that like a famous I think Pulp Fiction stuff will be Matrix. If you know, in Matrix they have these agents, these computers. They're referring to these multi-agents, where these agents are able to talk and communicate, and they are maintaining that Matrix system, right? Neo is fighting all those agents. They are actually in a way, the concept is this multi-agent systems as well in the computers, right? So looking at movies, looking at all of this, I knew that, like I have some trust issues and some fundamental issues with this. Then I started to look into how can I mitigate this trust issue, right? And I wanted to also look for a topic for my research lab because I was doing masters, right? And I was like finding up, then I was like, why is people trusting Bitcoin, right? I was like looking into all different factors, different type of databases and all of those. It just kind of occurred to me like, wait, Bitcoin is doing something similar. They're doing something, like a tamper-proof kind of a database. Okay, let's go and look into the technology. This is where I went into, started to learn about Bitcoin network. Back then, even blockchain word wasn't famous yet. People used to only say Bitcoin and Bitcoin protocol and Bitcoin network kind of a word. Blockchain, we don't even know who actually invented the word blockchain, right? I decided to Google it. I couldn't find anybody. I don't know.
Was in 2017, was it? Or 2016? Or?
This was like 2016, 2015.
Yeah, it's earlier than that, yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, 2015, 2016, the word blockchain wasn't so common, was not commonly used yet. I do not know who actually coined that term blockchain also. I actually tried to search. If you guys found it out, please let me know as well. I'm also quite curious about it, right? So even if you go on Satoshi's paper, it actually says chains of block. It actually, that's how it describes the Bitcoin protocol, right? So I decided to go up and look into it. I started looking at the Satoshi white paper. I went through the whole thing. First time I bought Bitcoin, I never read the white paper. I was like, okay, this one maybe can make money, man. Just buy, right? Then when I went up and read the paper and I understood it, that's why I feel that this is going to change the world. This is what is needed. AI will need it. Big data will need it. IoTs will need it. Like the whole industries will need it. The concept of smart contract was started to emerge back then. Ethereum started to emerge. I was like, that makes it even more exciting. It was 2017, but that was like confirmed already. This is where I have to be, right? So I decided to start doing some coin forks, started to go up and sign up for freelancer.com and all of those, try to see if I can get some crypto jobs because best way to learn is getting paid for it. So that was always my mindset. If you get paid for it, you're going to learn it best. I did it since childhood, and I knew if I'm getting paid, I'm going to learn best. So I decided to go and pick up some coin forking out Bitcoin network kind of projects early on, right? So all of these coins died less than 2 years or 3 years. Everybody wanted to be the next Bitcoin killer.
Yep.
Nobody made it, but I made money out of it. So I wasn't the guy who was promoting the coins, guys. I just built their tech. Don't kill the software engineer.
Yeah, this is coming from the guy who just promoted Ucoin.
Yeah, no, I mean U token, man. No, I'm not
sorry,
promoting.
U token.
Yeah, I'm not promoting it. I'm just coming from a guy who's like, it was a scam, man. Stay far from it. If it ever remerges, I think the coin is dead. I never checked out it for some time already.
Then how did that kind of like led you to doing things like Blocklime, and then how did that sort of like brought you to the whole crypto community and things like that? And back then there was probably not even like a shred of community. It's probably like
Bitcoin Malaysia actually already started coming up about 2017, 2016. I heard of these guys. I heard of Colbert, right? But the issue was that I wasn't a very community guy. I was a nerd, right? So I was always the guy who's at the back, like trying to do and trying to figure out my own stuff, right? So I was doing a lot of this stuff privately alone, because when you start sharing with people, they start to think you're dumb or you're some idiot or you're some rebel or something like that, right? So that's the that's the issue you have when you start talking about all this stuff loud out back then, right? People felt that your son needs to get some guidance. He's going on the complete wrong path. Right?
Scammer, yeah.
Yeah, he's becoming a scammer, right? So that's what the notion back then. So I was very quiet about it. I was doing it personally, never really joined a lot of communities. So right after that, I was about to finish my master's, first to take up my research job, my research topic. And I was like, maybe I should look into blockchain as the way of solving this. I was thinking of an idea of a multi-agent system with a blockchain as the base. I still want to build that, but it's too early for it. I think people can't even figure out blockchain right now. Multi-agent and blockchain is going to kill it. So it's a bit too early for that tech to be around, but I'll definitely do it someday. But that was the concept I was thinking. So I decided to go up and find for a job, did the freelancing work, and then later ended up in a company called Blockchain Technology Malaysia. So they were one of the earliest blockchain companies here. Etherscan and CoinGecko were earlier, but they were not doing blockchain development. They were just doing data analysis around it. So I started to figure out these guys, but I wasn't, but I didn't apply jobs there because I wanted to do work on the core protocol. And right timing, right position, blockchain technology Malaysia came in. I met the founder, met Junichi Kato, who actually decided to set up this company here. And I was their first hire. I was the first guy who decided to come on board. And they were like quite happy with me. So
How did the story go though? Like how were you like the first hire actually? Did you walk up to him and say that, hey, I like your work or something like that? Or would you form a project and you place it online and then they were interested? Or how did that kind of
I decided to go up and update my job street. And from there I started to get offer. Yeah. And one of the offer, right timing, I got somebody wanted to do blockchain. And I was looking at blockchain at that time because I put up like Bitcoin development stuff on my job street, I believe back then. Yeah, so then I started to get offers, I started to get call. I got like about, because this was the time I was thinking of leaving module system and doing, because I already peaked out in module system. Module system is a conveyor development company, right? They build conveyors, they're engineering. So they don't have more scope for me to further out. So I talked to my HR. It's actually the best company experience. The HR, the MD, everybody is like super nice. Even until today, we just sometimes go and talk to them or go for dinner. Yeah, that was like my best experience in working. So, and they gave me full freedom. Whatever I want to do, you can go up and do in the company. So I used to do all that R&D stuff, like play with leap motion sensors, like basically doing all that futuristic stuff that was like not here yet or still not here yet in a way. So all this stuff I used to do in the company, and they gave me a free hand, and they even invested in some of my R&D projects. So that was quite cool. Yeah. So basically, so I decided that I'm already peaking out here. I gotta get somewhere else, because they were even consider the discussion of maybe I was even being considered to be a manager there. And I'm like, wait, I'm just 24. I become a manager here. I'm gonna be chilled out. I'm gonna get a salary that I want. I will be the fat Punjabi guy who actually goes to work and come back. I don't want to be that guy. Right. So that was my mindset. I want to be somebody who builds stuff, who's an entrepreneur. I didn't even know how to spell the word entrepreneur back then. Actually, never really looked into it, but I just knew that maybe this is the path I want to take. Right. So that's why I updated my job street. I got about 8 offers in 1 month plus, because I was a rare case. So in that case, I started to get those offers, and I went for the salary that was the least. Which was but they gave me a blockchain opportunity. So they gave me like the least salary, because my salary was already high comparing to any fresh graduate out there, because I was already working for a few years in this company. And plus, but what I wanted to learn more about Ethereum, how to do Ethereum development. And they were the only one who were doing it. I'm like, that's where I want to be. So I joined the company, started learning about Ethereum development and all of those, and became one of the early smart contract developers.
I want to add a little bit, like a lot of people think, I mean, for now, definitely like going into this space, finding a job is a lot more competitive. But just back then, actually, when this whole thing, the technology is starting out, actually, if you just like blockchain, you like this technology and you wanted to learn more about it, it's actually not hard for you to find a job in that space, because back then everyone is just starting out. It's just some some crypto lover, some blockchain lover comes together and then form a company. And I would say, like, back in the time, even CoinGecko, they are not doing it full time themselves. Like, a lot of people are doing these projects as a part time. So yeah, so it's not hard to get a job there, but it is also amazing to see how the blockchain space grow until today.
Yeah, but nowadays, I would assume that nowadays, right, it's going to be way harder for you to actually get like a crypto blockchain job, right? Would you say
not really that? Though. If it go into development, we always want to hire. You have to be good though. The problem is we don't have the time to guide people anymore. So when I got in back then, there was nobody who knows development. So we had the time to go join the job, like have the time to sit down and learn it and put it out. And like the projects was not very high in pressure. The projects took give us some time before we need to develop them. Right. So in that case, we had the learning curve of understanding how Ethereum works. Back then, tools was ridiculously bad on Ethereum. Development on Ethereum was super unfriendly, right? So, but we had the time and the incentive to do it. So that was good. Today, everybody is rushing. They want to hire a blockchain developer and they want him to deliver something in 1 month, right? So there is like a lot of pressure on a developer. So a lot of people can't cope with that. A lot of people don't want to be in that kind of situation, although what kind of money you give them, right? And a lot of people are not confident to even learn a concept which is totally rare to them because they never actually even learn development properly from college, right? So this is the issues that we have today. That's why I noticed that this would not would not really work. And we decided to go up with Blocklime. We decided to do some training. But before I get into Blocklime, just to finish the story, that's how I got into company. I started learning Ethereum on blockchain technology in Malaysia. And towards the end of it, I kind of, I was getting quite a lot of offers, because the first guy who actually, one of the first guys, because it's between me and Dave Appleton. I think maybe Dave might be earlier. We never actually had that discussion. Someday we will have the discussion who was first. I think Dave might be first. Yeah, so I can't claim that position. Dave Appleton was also one of the earliest Ethereum developers in Malaysia. So in this case, so back then there was nobody else who was doing development. Everybody was doing mining and basically buying crypto and holding Bitcoin and running community like Colbert and everybody.
So I'm assuming that you were probably like doing development stuff, and then after that, one thing you notice is that developers are not doing it properly and things like that, or like a lot of these projects are not. They don't really know how to manage their development resources properly. Is that what sort of inspired you to kind of start Blocklime? Or
similarly, it's around the same thought. I felt that the ICO is a bubble. When I looked into it, because we were building projects that were ridiculously stupid, and I couldn't bear with that. I was like, man, this is not working, right?
Can you tell us a little bit about like what do you mean by like stupid projects, though?
Yeah, I mean, basically the clients don't know what they're building, right? They don't have idea. Then we basically figure out those requirements, right? We have to sit down, understand what the client trying to achieve, figure out all those requirements, figure out the whole business case. In the end, we are making the client's business, right? On how his business should operate. And then when I look into it, this guy is just trying to make quick buck. He's not going to sustain this company, right? He's in a way, he's another scammer. And I'm like, I felt that kind of a feeling that make me feel that, no, I don't want to be in this business, right? Then I felt that maybe I don't want to be associated with this. So I decided to look up from outside. I started to get, when I opened up my second time, I opened my job street, I started to get offers again. I get offered as a CTO at the age of 25. Yeah, I think it was back then. Yeah, 3 years plus. Yeah, 25. The offer as a CTO, and I'm like, this is too early, man. I'm getting CTO offer at 25. Like what will happen next after this? I said, never mind. Let's just started to get other offers as well, as a lead of blockchain, as a like blockchain. Some of the companies are my friends today, the guys who gave me this job offers, right? So, and I started to go and check out all of the companies. Most of them were ICO companies, and I couldn't see them surviving more than 5 years. I see their leadership, I see their bosses. Most of the companies that I interviewed for died. Only one surviving until today.
Thanks.
Yeah. So in this case, and I had the feeling that they won't survive. I just feel like.
What was that thing that sort of like triggered your gut feeling, though? Like
leadership. Comes to, you need to look up to your boss. You need to have. I had a very good boss when I first started job, and I can see how he's navigating the company and how is he pushing it forward, right? So in this case, when I went to all the other guys, like all the CEOs and all the bosses, I knew like they don't have the domain expertise. They don't have, like an understanding of the space. They are not agile. They are not, they are not the people who will be able to navigate out of a crisis, right?
What's your definition of like a good leader when it comes to the blockchain industry?
I think one thing is you definitely need to have a strong grasp on what you're building, right? What is your product? How is your product going to impact, the market? How are you going to survive out of it? What is your economics, right? It's being a blockchain developer trained me not to just be a coder, just be a programmer. You need to understand the architecture. You need to understand human behavior. You need to understand how your consumers and users are going to react to it. Then you also have the economical angle where if you're introducing crypto to it, right? You have to understand the crypto economics. So when I go into all these projects, I notice they have crypto economic crisis going to come in some time. They're going to have a human behavior crisis. They're going to have a developer crisis. They're going to have a leadership crisis. I can see all of them happening. And I see if I don't put myself there, how this is going to die, right? So I position myself and imagine that I have a thing that I would like to think. If I see a person, I know how it's going to go in the next few years. I have a good intuition, right? Maybe that's why I'm single for all this while. I overthink.
Got too good.
Yeah, maybe that's the reason though. Yeah, but in this case, I have a good intuition and I have a good gut feeling. And I went with this and I went with this intuition and no, this is, their salary package was super good though. My salary went from, like when I went in with I told you the least salary earlier, their salary was still competitive to any like any fresh graduate. It was still good. But when I went as the role as a CTO, my salary went up 4 times.
Wow.
4 times more. And then
Wow.
I even got foreign offers to work for some of the global exchanges in Canada, in US. I'm like, this is really good. And I said that why am I getting these offers is because I have something that these guys want, right? If I maintain this value, even in future, I can always get these jobs or even better jobs. But this is a good time for me to do something on my own. When I see those companies not surviving, I felt maybe I should position myself to have my own company. And that's why it brought me the confidence to actually go up, quit my job. I was only given a 24 hours notice because my boss was angry. He was like, hey, you're leaving. I gave you a lot of opportunities. He was giving me an offer to basically grow up to lead a company. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to do it. I'm planning to leave. And he was like, okay, you want to leave? You leave today. I'm like, okay, thank you, man. I just exited the company in one day, set up the company the next day, set up the branding, like the third day, went up for a pitch in a week and pitched my first pitch in a week plus in this Korean Malaysia event, after we did the first pitch, we got a lot of interest because we were one of the first rare startups doing it. I went for my first conference, which was Block Show 2017 in Singapore, got my first client when I came back. So in 1 month, I got my client and we were profitable in the first month itself.
Wow.
Ladies, I just want to say that Harpreet's still single. So
that's what you got from the discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that aside, right? It seems to me that you've also been in the community for a pretty long time, right? So you're very involved in the whole crypto community and everything like that.
Yeah, I have a strong habit of going all out whenever.
Where do you see Malaysia's crypto community going, like moving forward though? Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like back then, today, and where do you think it's going to go like in the future?
I think what happened is that I noticed that back then the community was group of bunch of gamblers, to be honest. Everybody was entering into Bitcoin. They don't really understand what it is. They were not very informed about it. They were just saw something that might potentially grow. We didn't, like when we go into a lot of the Western communities or we talked about them, they were well-informed investors, right? They believed in the Bitcoin vision. A lot of Malaysians were gamblers who just thought that because people are buying it and it's growing, maybe it will grow, just put some money in, right? So that was the mindset of a lot of the community members back then. And it was very investor-centric, was not technology-centric at all, right? So that's why I didn't want to be in the discussion, right? I was like, okay, I do like the investment discussions, but that's not what I really was in for, right? I really got curious about it when I knew about the technology and what it can do for the next few years, right? I do the investment bit, yes, but not my heavier, what wake up every day is the technology part, the excitement about the technology future and potential. So that's why I think over time, what we did is what Bitcoin Malaysia did and what the other community did is bring in the technology element, do the awareness. Bitcoin Malaysia started to do Bitcoin awareness for the past 3 years, 4 years. Even today, Jason is actually doing a bi-weekly Bitcoin meetup online, right? So we started to do a lot of this awareness, meetups, discussion sessions, started to glue the community tighter together. That's how I know KC, who started to come in and volunteer for all of these Bitcoin meetups, right? So that's how we started to glue the community to be tighter, stronger together, and also make them aware what you're investing in, what are the technologies behind them, what is blockchain, right? And that's where I also I noticed that I can bring in the angle of the developers. I wanted Malaysia to be a position where we talk about higher level stuff, where we talk about all those deep blockchain technology, protocol level. We have a bunch of nerds who we can discuss with. The real reason for it, I didn't have a friend to talk to about this. That was the sad part about it, right? So you didn't really had a lot of people who want to talk about it, who really understood. When you talk to them about DAGs and Lightning Network, and they're like, what? It's way above their head, right? So that's why we started to participate first. The first person to actually run a blockchain developer was a different company, used to run a blockchain development project. It's called, R3. Yeah, R1 Group. So these guys used to run the first blockchain, Mark Smalley. Yeah, so man, my memory is failing me. Mark Smalley used to run this early on, R1 Group. So they used to run the first blockchain developer community, and they even have a Facebook page. And we went in, I saw how well it was done. They did a really good job. The community sharing, CoinGecko, and everybody was early contributors. TM, Bobby, and all of those used to be in those developer groups, and Adam. So all of us used to be there. All the nerds kind of gathered together and started to talk tech, and that's why it really started to boom out. And from there, we started to bring in more developer angles. We started to do Cyberjaya developer meetups, and like started to do hackathons, started to do training, started to do boot camps, and so far we have already trained more than 3,000 developers.
All in Malaysia or like
globally? Actually, we did more than 20 countries already.
Wow.
Yeah, we touched most of the continents except Africa and Latin America. They will be my next target. So I think next maybe we'll try to go there also, so I can claim I have trained worldwide. So far we can't because we have 2 continents non-touch. Yeah, so after that maybe we can claim worldwide. We already did training.
Got it.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting, man. The whole journey about it. But Harpreet, I think right now I want to go a little bit back into like, because of all this position you're in, I think I want to ask a more sensitive question, which is really related for current situation, which is being in a position like you understand the space in and out, like in Malaysia and globally sense wise. I think a lot of users want to know. This is a non-financial advice thing, but a lot of users want to know about like currently Malaysian has been taking a really serious actions against one of the biggest exchange, Binance. So I want to kind of know your thoughts on it. Like our users are really worried about it. So do you have any comments on this part of thing?
Yeah, I think we all saw it coming, right? So when the DEX was introduced, the next thing is basically curbing illegal activities or curbing, like all those uncompliant DEXs, right? So I was in the discussion of the DEX guidelines as well. I was in discussion on most of this. So since then, we already prepared mentally that this day will come, right? And why is it today? It's because this is my I'm speculating about it. I'm not sure if this is the real reason.
Advice. No worries.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. No, I'm just saying it from the perspective that why SE would have done it is basically to put up pressure on Binance, right? To bring them to the negotiating table and dictate terms, right? If not, they actually don't really have a position to basically make them come in and comply, right? If they went the Remitano route of just use a VPN and don't really care about them, and so in this case, people will still use it and they have zero control.
Would you also say that it's sort of like a coordinated attack simply because, quite a few countries are doing it at the same time as well?
I actually been in those discussions and with a lot of these people. I don't think so. They coordinate very well as well. To be honest, between those SEs and all SECs, they don't even communicate. They don't even talk about policies that well together each other. They're all like competing with each other. What they have seen, I think in my perspective, they know that Binance is getting attacked here, getting attacked here, getting attacked here. Good position to move our chess piece as well. And basically, release the statement, bring them where Binance will need to hire leadership in this country. So Binance is already doing that. They're already looking for a director at the moment. They're already looking for top management. They'll find for somebody who can do compliance. They're going to start doing engagement and discussion with SE, and they will start looking into basically getting some regulation in place. SE will enforce to basically limit. Most probably, they will ask them to remove future, and a few like stock tokens and all of them is definitely a no-go for SE. And this speculation again, don't take it seriously. It might not happen. So, and in this case, once they do that, they will start applying for maybe becoming one of those DEXs here in Malaysia. Right now, because we already went 2 rounds of DEXs already. Round 1, we actually tested, see if the policies work. Round 2, we brought in another DEX, just MX exchange recently got announced. So now they're confident that they actually can now take the bigger fight to Binance. They might take it to Hobby and all the other guys in the future, and slowly try to get them comply or get them banned. And that's how they're going to try to control the money that's flowing out of the country. That's how I will play it in SE. That's the logical step. That's their chess move.
How likely do you think that would actually stop people from, continuing to like buy other coins and etc. and just like moving their funds from one place to another?
What will happen here is that we have to see that quite a lot of our community really likes what Binance does today, right? But the issue is Binance can't maintain that without being an illegal offender or putting CZ in jail someday, right? So in this case, if they want to go up on the good books of the regulators, they will eventually try to curb in and they will try to start, getting themselves regulated, which you can see CZ is already start doing, right? They already started pushing for like getting regulation and coming in. What will happen is there's going to be a push and pull from the community. There will be a group of community who's going to go into the next uncontrollable section, which is DeFi. And I think the next thing that will emerge there is even a greater thing, which is decentralized web ecosystem. We always talk about Web 3.0, but for a big extent, it's centralized. It's something that you can shut down. You can shut down their servers and everything. But with rise of projects like Definity, not trying to shield them or whatsoever, but just generally saying, I think that's the angle. Go into a whole blockchain-based internet, which you can't shut down. This is where the DeFi is going to lead towards. And then when it comes towards centralized exchanges, many of them are going to get themselves regulated, and they're going to push for more assets, more investment types, more types of markets to be introduced. And that's where I think Binance and all Hobby and everybody might be coming towards. They will try to curb in. So that's why a group of community, which are more investors who are less keen to take a lot of risk, will go towards centralized exchanges. Institutional investors, institutional groups will actually invest into a lot of the centralized exchanges because now they're regulated. So more institutional money will flow in there. But then there's also going to be a segment where you have a big amount of retail investors. Some institutions as well will go into DeFi and decentralized web, where they will go up and start investing more in that sector. And that sector, it's quite difficult for regulators to come after, but they will try their best with FATF laws and all of those they can.
So in your opinion, this is actually this is overall is a good thing happen, because currently it happens now. We still can have a lot of tolerance, have a lot of talks between the centralized exchanges and the regulators to actually reach a common ground on this thing. But also, I think there's one part like a lot of community worry is like once they get regulated, as we see in a lot of local exchanges, it's like the innovation actually got halted a lot. So for now, we can see all this more global exchanges which is not regulated, Hobby, FTX, Binance. They are introducing a lot of different crypto, different investing instruments like every other day. But when you start complying to regulation, you can't really introduce all this thing that fast. So wouldn't it be a problem for all this, for even for the space to grow itself?
I think the innovation, like a lamp is going to be transferred to DeFi. So people are going to build future DeFis. People are going to look into high speed, because we're talking about increasing TPS. If we can go up in high TPS, we can even do, like a high speed trading over there as well. But I think people are going to stay away from high speed trading on blockchain. They're going to go towards different types of secondary markets and different, different types of future markets on blockchain. That's going to happen. So innovation is going to boom even more on the DeFi side. On the regulated side, innovation will happen, but who will do that innovation will be controlled, right? Because if stocks are being traded on Binance, everybody is going to go on Binance as an all solution. What will be the job of other stock exchanges, right? Capital will flow out from like regular stock exchanges and go into them, right? SE has to play a balance. It has to play a position where it mitigate the risk. If let's say a foreign exchange like Binance has all Malaysian stocks, has all Malaysian crypto, has all Malaysian funds, has all Malaysian lending, all Malaysian money market and stock market into it, it's a huge risk. So when you diversify, like that risk, and you diversify those portfolios, you actually mitigate that. But it doesn't stop Binance from working with those exchanges and collaborating with them. I think instead of building a monopoly, we should build a shared collaborative ecosystem. Because what has happened already, Binance is actually a monopoly. If you really ask me, right? Yep. They have everything and they're doing it everything and they're already monopoly. But what happened when the monopoly is shut down or the monopoly decided to become selfish, right? In terms of governance, from that perspective, actually, I will say, in a way, it's a good option what SE is thinking as well. I'm not a pure SE guy or whatsoever. They do a lot of mistakes as well a lot of times, right? There's a lot of things that we disagree on, but there are things that I agree on with what they're doing. And I think in terms, if we are seeing it from that perspective, it makes sense, right? If let's say we diversify, we don't make a monopoly, we but still allow a room of collaboration between all of these guys. And in the case of people who are worrying of taking out their money today or tomorrow, everybody knew it's going to come, right? If Binance decided to shut down for Malaysian investors, they're going to give us a time for cashing out money, right? People are going to move them to their hardware wallet, or they're going to move it to Luno, depending on people's choices. So I'm not so worried about it, because already seasoned. We have seen so many bans, so many hacks, so many money got stolen here and there. I'm like a bit, like got bored of the whole situation already. I know what's, like kind of see this coming already. So in this case, a lot of the seasoned guys, they all chilled out. They have no problem. The people who are like really excited, and there are a lot of the people are newbies.
So what's your advice for like the layman people that will be watching this, right? So a lot of people that are watching this are usually like new to crypto and things like that. All very panic about the situation. Everyone's panicking about the situation right now. So what's your advice? Say if I were a good friend of yours, right? And say like I'm just like 15 years old or like 12 years old or something like that.
I think you can't use exchange at that age though.
Yeah, I mean,
legally you can't.
I mean, legally you can't, but a lot of crypto people are very young, right? So let's just imagine that. Yeah.
Yeah, as I told you, my first crypto was quite young as well, right? So in this case, a lot of the other guys, I know some kids who actually invested in crypto as well. All these guys are in DeFi right now, but they do have crypto exchanges on their brother's name and all of those as well. Things like that happen. People, even kids, and like a lot of these young guys are looking for financial opportunities. So in this case, what I will recommend is that, one, the most important thing, chill out, right? Don't get like overly you're like excited. Don't get into the fad of selling, or you're like trying to cash out all your positions, that like like the world is going to end tomorrow or something like that. Chill out, number one. Number two, I think if let's say you want to, if you have like quite a lot of money there, maybe you want to like reduce your risk. Take your portfolios, exit some of your cash, like your main cash out, and put it into a hardware wallet, or put it into a local exchange if you want to put it there. And if you're but other than that, I think Binance is a global exchange. Back in the day, yes, maybe like maybe in 2017, 2016, I would be worried, because back then all the exchanges was not very trustworthy. All of them were new. Every time got hacks. But now I think the trustworthiness is a bit more on a lot of these global exchanges. So that's why I'm a bit more chilled out. I'll wait for Binance statement. That's what they keep saying. Wait for us to announce something. Wait for us to announce something. Wait for us to announce something, right? And I think let them announce it. If they say okay, cash out, then cash out, and go to wherever you feel like next. I will definitely recommend the local DEXs from the regulatory point of view and as an excess precedent. But as go for like as go for the what will happen after that, I think most probably a best situation that I'm looking for, that there is a kind of a point in the center that SE and Binance agree to and still operates. I think what ST really wants Binance to do is becoming a reporting agency and reduce and basically also comply to those elements. Basically, what will happen is most probably we'll have a Binance.my. I think before this interview, I should have just gone and bought it, but I think they would have been smart enough to buy it. Yeah, just thought about it. Yeah, if they haven't, let me buy it first. We share the profit.
that is really like really good advice. I think everyone is. I think for all the people who are very panicked, the first thing you need to do is chill out, because the more panic you are, the easier you make mistake. If you are super panic, I mean like you withdraw and then like you insert the wrong public address, then it's even worse lah. It's better for you to chill first, to reassess like the current situation. As Harpreet say, I think why Binance keeps saying like wait for their announcements, because I think they are engaging a active conversation with our SE. I believe at that point. So yeah, I would at the same point I was encouraged like what Harpreet say. I would encourage everyone to just chill out, relax, and let's see what we're gonna do after. Like Binance will put out an announcement, and after that, let's figure out what you're gonna do. If you like DEX, go for DEX. If you want your money somewhere like it's more guaranteed, go for the local exchanges, the DEX. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much the same thing that I would say from my end as well. That those are things I've been telling my viewers as well. Just don't be too freaked out. Don't be too panicky about this whole situation, because Binance is in a conversation with the SC. So chill out. And yeah, a lot of people are already telling me that they converted everything to USDT yesterday or something like that. and then send to another wallet or something like that, which I think that, there's no rash need to do that, but hey, it's up to you. Okay, so that's about it. And thank you so much to Harpreet for joining the conversation today. Thank you so much for joining the Crypto Kopitiam. Tell us a little bit about, so at the end of every single podcast session, we usually open the floor up for anything that you would like to pitch or that you would like to shill. Just say whatever it is that you would like to say, and the floor is now open for you, man.
Sure. Definitely would love to talk about some of the upcoming activity at Access. Before that, actually, we didn't talk about Access. So I'm the president of Access Blockchain Association. I had a very long pre-story. So maybe you need to come for part 2 to get more information.
You need to come. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'm a member of Access. I think we should do a podcast specifically, like we have some Access people on it and have a chat. Something like that.
Yeah, because Access has a very interesting starter story as well. Can get Renee and everybody on board to have like a separate Access chat someday. Yeah, but generally, just what I wanted to talk about is what I wanted to shill is we have events coming up. So we have 5 weeks long content. So last year we did 6 weeks, spread out contents of DeFi week. We did enterprise blockchain week. We did like a public blockchain week and all of those contents last year. It was like really well received by everybody in the community. A lot of people actually liked it, and that kind of moved the DeFi discussion in Malaysia. Before that, I think a lot of people never heard about it. When we brought our way to the discussion early last year, they were only like about 500 million in locked assets. Now they're like multiple billions. They're like super, like they went up like few 100% in growth. I think back then they were still small. The whole ecosystem was very small. When we first started, then we decided to do DeFi week 2 last year as well. And this year we are bringing DeFi week again. We are bringing enterprise blockchain week. We are bringing back, we are also bringing NFT blockchain week. We want to talk about NFTs this year. We are bringing Malaysia blockchain week where we're talking about the local ecosystem. We are working out with a partner down south, Medini, blockchain village at Medini, and working out on a conference together. And all of them is going to happen in September, where we call it our Malaysian Blockchain Month, right?
Awesome.
So stay tuned. On the Access page, on Bitcoin Malaysia page, on Blocklime page, we're going to be sharing at all these places all our upcoming activities and events. A lot of people are asking where are the events, when are the talks, when are we going to learn new stuff. This is where. So we hear you guys. It's coming. Okay. So September is where we're going to head it off with all this discussion. We are finalizing the speakers, and we're going to soon come out with the marketing. And we'll be happy to have you guys on board there as well, KC and Chun Weng.
Oh, that's.
We'll see you there.
I really appreciate that. Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining Harpreet. Once again, this has been Harpreet, and also he's single, ladies. If you know, yeah. Okay. Bye bye.
All right.